Hey y'all, Gary here with Tennessee Stands. So look, coming up apparently, so we've heard, on October 27th, the General Assembly will be calling a special session that is supposed to last somewhere around 2 weeks to deal with the various issues regarding mandates and everything going on around COVID, education. And we're going to be putting out some information via email on what we hope to see happen in the special session and things that we hope you are ready to engage your state senator and state representatives on to make sure that we walk out of this special session with some things happening and not just a bunch of half measures like we've seen in the past, because this is our opportunity. That people are hurting right now. We don't have time to wait until 2022, and so we need to make sure that we get some things done. That's the hope anyway. But on this particular video, I want to point out one thing, and I want to make sure you're tooled with all of the necessary information regarding employers requiring vaccination as a condition of employment. That must stop in the state of Tennessee. It must stop completely, and the legislature must act to stop it and not simply pass some meaningless bill that forces you and I to run to the court whenever someone tries to take away our liberty and our rights to our own medical decisions. So I want to walk you through a few things. For one, I don't know if many of you have heard yet about the Right to Work Amendment, all right? That is a constitutional amendment that is going to be coming on the ballot at the general election in November of 2022. We are going to vote to amend our Constitution. It's called the Right to Work Amendment. This has been going on, working for some time now, about 6 years. It's quite a process to put forward an amendment to our Constitution. But I want to make, the reason I'm talking about this Right to Work Amendment is because it's crucial you hear what I'm about to say. Because one of the main arguments from conservatives against a law that would prohibit employers from requiring the vaccine is that, well, we don't regulate businesses here in Tennessee. We don't believe in regulating businesses. Businesses have a liberty right to make their employees do whatever it is they want them to do for employment. You and I know that's a bunch of hogwash. We know that we regulate businesses in all sorts of ways here in Tennessee, whether it's by requiring a license, taxes, obeying local building ordinances, whatever the case may be. Lots of ways we regulate business. But that's the argument. But I bring up this Right to Work Amendment because I find it very interesting that I can't find a Republican that does not support the Right to Work Amendment. By the way, I support the Right to Work Amendment. I think it's a good amendment to our Constitution. It's current state law, by the way. They're just securing it in our Constitution. So let's take a look at that real quick. What is the Right to Work Amendment? Well, I'm going to read it to you. Here's what it says. It is unlawful for any person, corporation, association, so by the way, not just the government. We're restricting businesses here, okay? It is unlawful for any person, corporation, association, or this state or its political subdivisions to deny or attempt to deny employment to any person by reason of the person's membership in, affiliation with, resignation from, or refusal to join or affiliate with any labor union or employee organization. All right, so what we're saying here in this constitutional amendment, by the way, again, all Republican leaderships, McNally, Jack Johnson, William Lamberth, Cameron Sexton, all of our leadership, Governor Bill Lee, former Governor Bill Haslam is involved in the Tennessee Right to Work movement and Right to Work Amendment. They all support this. They support a constitutional provision that prohibits a business from forcing you to be part of a labor union in order to gain employment. Now, I have a question. I'm going to pose this question to all of you pro-business, freedom-loving, liberty-minded Republicans. Why? What happened? Why do you support taking away the right of a business owner to require whatever it is they want of their employees? If I'm a business owner and I want to require my employees to be part of a labor union or to pay union dues or any other requirement that I have as an employer for you to work in my private business on my private property, how dare you place a restriction on me that I cannot require any? See, do you see where I'm going here? Because this is the argument. What we've been told all this time is, well, we don't regulate business here in Tennessee. Private business owners have a private property right to force employees to do whatever it is they want, apparently. But not unions. No, that's bad. No, we can't do it. They can force you to take a vaccine. They can force you to inject. They can force you to break the barrier of your skin and inject something into your body on an annual or semi-annual basis. But unions, no, the private employer can't force you to do. Do you see how asinine this argument is? And I want to just make sure I'm pointing this out crystal clear. You can see here that we are not having a liberty conversation. No, we're not having a conversation on rights. We're having a very political conversation. We're having a conversation with men and women who have received tons of campaign finance donations from these medical lobbyists, from Pfizer, from the Tennessee Medical Association, from the Tennessee Hospital Association, that association, this association, Johnson & Johnson, all of it. And we're right in the hub, in the center of healthcare, right here in Tennessee, ruled and reigned over by Vanderbilt. And this is not a conversation about what businesses or employees have the rights to do. This is simply a conversation about, we want you to have the vaccine, and dang it, we're going to let employers force it on you because we're not going to force it. We're just going to let See, that's the conversation we're having, and it needs to stop. Just be honest. Be honest about what you're doing and just stop the political theater. Better yet, actually pass a law that protects employees and protects individual rights, like the Right to Work Amendment. Protect our medical freedom. So let me take you to a few other things. I want to make sure that you are all aware that Montana has passed this law. And I've got the law pulled up, and I want to read it to you. By the way, I had about an hour-long conversation with Representative Jennifer Carlson in Montana, who sponsored and got this bill passed. She's an amazing woman, absolute freedom fighter. It was amazing to hear her story. I hope to be able to share more of her story with you. It truly is inspirational. But they got this bill passed in Montana and basically has some incredible provisions. This first provision, Section A, subsection A, is actually SB 320, which the governor killed last year. That would have actually banned vaccine passports in the state of Tennessee, which we're already seeing in use at Bridgestone Arena and other event centers across Tennessee. But the bill they passed in Montana prevents any entity from requiring a vaccination status in exchange for goods and services. But here's the kicker, subsection B. Let me read it to you. It's discriminatory in the state of Montana for an employer to refuse employment to a person, to bar a person from employment, or to discriminate against a person in compensation or in a term, condition, or privilege of employment. They've covered all the bases here. Based on a person's vaccination status or whether the person has an immunity passport. So this is a law in Montana. This was passed in May of this year. Now, I want to point out two very important things. For one, what's interesting about this law is it's not just about COVID-19. Remember, if you go back and read the law, vaccination status, period. An employer in the state of Montana cannot require an employee or cannot require proof of vaccination status, period. Not for COVID-19 or anything specific, but just period, which completely blows up Representative Robin Smith here in Tennessee. I mean, it just blows her mind because according to Robin Smith, well, restaurants and child care facilities, if they're not requiring you to have a hepatitis B vaccine, all of the children in her church's daycare center are going to die. Well, newsflash, No church, no employer, no way, no how, nobody can require a vaccine of an employee in the state of Montana, and everybody's just fine. The kids in the church daycares are all still alive. And everyone eating in restaurants, shockingly, all still alive. There is no hepatitis A outbreak or epidemic in Montana. Just thought that was an important nugget for Representative Robin Smith to acknowledge that Montana's safe and no employer can require a vaccine. I find that interesting. Here's the last interesting thing about this bill in Montana. Listen closely. Every Republican senator and every Republican state representative in Montana voted yes on this bill. Let me repeat that for all of the conservatives here in Tennessee that are so conservative, because we have been fighting for this for so long, and these conversations have been so hard, and so many are still just not getting it because you are bought and paid for by the medical community here in Tennessee. So listen closely, because all of your Republican cohorts in Montana emphatically disagree with you. This bill that restricts businesses from requiring vaccination status for goods and services and restricts employers in all cases in terms of compensation and as a condition of employment. It is discriminatory and unlawful for that employer to require any vaccination status as a condition of employment. 100% of the GOP representation in Montana voted yes on this bill. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 100%. Moving on. Let's look at this last thing here. Many of you know that just this week, Governor Greg Abbott in the state of Texas has now issued an executive order mandating that employers cannot require the vaccine. Texas went COVID specific, so different from Montana. However, made an executive order and is asking for a special session. The governor in Texas is actually calling the special session to deal with this issue specifically. So let's read this section right here, section 1 of the executive order. No entity, all right, no entity. So the state or corporation or private individual, no entity in Texas can compel receipt of a COVID-19 vaccine by any individual, including an employee or a consumer, so both consumers and employers, who objects to such vaccination, listen closely, for any reason of personal conscience, any reason, not just religious or any reason, for any reason of personal conscience based on a religious belief or medical reasons, including prior recovery from COVID-19. Guess what? In Texas, if you've had COVID-19 before and you believe that you now carry natural immunity, it matters. It matters in the state of Texas that you don't have to be forcibly injected for this disease. All right. I hereby suspend all relevant statutes to the extent necessary to enforce this prohibition. And by the way, in Section 2 of his executive order, they're actually penalizing people who break this rule. So they're not just saying it. The governor actually put teeth to it. If an employer requires vaccination for employees in the state of Texas right now per this executive order, that employer can be fined by the state. So there's actually an enforcement clause. Here's the thing. You need to know what's going on around you. I want to repeat. Your state leadership in the GOP supports the right to work amendment. They support restricting business from requiring any membership in a union. So why not support an individual's right to their own medical decisions? Seems clear, right? Doesn't that seem just so crystal clear if you just take the politics out of it? And what about in Montana, where every Republican voted to protect and defend the medical autonomy of every employee and every consumer in the state of Montana, irregardless of the disease, irregardless of whether or not it's hepatitis or COVID-19? They protected it all in Montana. And now you have Texas taking a step, again, to protect consumers and employees from being forcibly vaccinated for COVID-19. Look, this is happening all around us. We need to fix this in Tennessee. I'm going to close with this. Sorry, I know this is a long video, but this is all important. I know all my videos are long. I'm sorry. I can't help it. You just need to know this stuff. Last thing. What's being said right now, what I'm hearing is that here's what our legislature intends to do in the special session, because we don't want to regulate business. So they want to pass a bill that if an employer mandates the shot, and if you are injured by the vaccine, then you have a legal cause of action to take your employer to court. And then it's up to the court as to whether or not you get awarded. Well, let me just point out a couple of things with this ridiculous notion and another half measure, and what do I like to say, bill that almost does nothing in the state of Tennessee. They're not protecting your rights. They're requiring you to run to the courts. Once again, we don't get protection from our legislators. We have to run to the courts. And by the way, you've already been injured. You've already been forced to take the shot. You're already sick. You're already injured. And now you're just going to ask for damages. This is not protecting the public. This is, once again, a legislative action that shirks the responsibility, the constitutional duty of these men and women to protect individual liberties here in the state of Tennessee. These are not Republican ideals. This is political theater. We're asking you to stop it. Stop it and protect the individual liberties of all Tennesseans, business owners and employees alike, all of the individuals that reside in Tennessee and deserve constitutional protections. Do it. So you can go to our website. Let me pull this up. You can go to our website at tennesseestands.org. And if you go to resources and, if you go to take action and find your legislators, you will pull up this page and you can put in your address and your street address, and it will populate with who your elected representatives are here in the state of Tennessee. And we encourage you, contact them. Contact them today. Do not delay. Send them this video if you want. Make the argument that if you can protect individuals from unions, why can't you protect them from the shot? Do what Montana's doing. Do what Texas is doing. Do something. Defend our liberty here in Tennessee. Thanks for watching.